Is this thing on? Welcome back to Big Mouth and fancy seeing you here in June. A very welcome, my friends, and especially my enemies. Come in, sit down, no touching. I don't do the touching. Are you feeling charitable? Then smash the subscribe button and the like button, and please do follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. And welcome to the dceu Daily. And today we will be reading this exclusive article from Heroic Hollywood claiming there will be no Wonder Woman versus Aquaman in Andres Machete's Flashpoint movie. And Ray Fisher is back with the controversy, talking about his special hair and makeup artist, who is a person of colour, who wasn't in the credits for Justice League, which was very disappointing for Ray and his friend. We'll be reading that thread a little bit later on. But first, let's talk about this. Ezra Miller's The Flash won't include Amazon Atlantean War. Exclusive, my arse. Ezra Miller's The Flash movie will be missing a key Flashpoint storyline. When it was announced that Ezra Miller's The Flash movie would be loosely based on the Flashpoint storyline, fans wondered exactly what that would mean for the Scarlet Speedster's first solo flick. Then it was revealed that a major detail from Flashpoint would be altered for the movie version, as Jeffrey Dean Morgan's Thomas Wayne won't be featured in it. Instead, The Flash will include Michael Keaton's Bruce Wayne, with the actor reprising his role as Batman for the first time since 1992. Let's be clear here. Jeffrey Dean Morgan's Thomas Wayne could get his own HBO Max, straight to streaming series. He could play Thomas Wayne in a series on his own. How awesome would that be? So, fans of Jeffrey Dean Morgan's Thomas Wayne, which include me, don't lose hope quite yet. The Flashpoint comic book arc, Thomas Wayne becomes Batman after Bruce Wayne is the one who dies in Crime Alley. So the movie version is already set to be very different. The changes don't stop there, as an insider notes that besides there being no Thomas Wayne Flashpoint Batman in the yet-to-be-titled The Flash movie, there will also be no Atlanteans Amazonian War either, with these two key Flashpoint plot points missing from the movie. Fans should expect a very different take on the classic storyline. Well, I think he's guessing. I think he could be right. He's hit pot luck here. This is something I never saw happening. Why? Because Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman has become a very inspirational figure since the 2017 Wonder Woman movie that grossed just about 800 million, right? Did really well globally. Everybody loves her. She's the darling of the mainstream audience. So you can imagine why, and it's the same with Jason Momoa. Very popular with the mainstream as Aquaman as well. So you can understand why the studio may not want a really dark Diana. Diana in the Flashpoint movie is brutal. She's evil. She kills Mira so she can have Aquaman to herself. And Aquaman is a warlord. He's not a nice person in this Flashpoint universe either. It's very, very dark, and you can understand why they may not want to do this. If this is true, for me, it's an opportunity missed, because with all that said about them not wanting to darken them up, I think we all know this isn't the Aquaman and Wonder Woman we know and love. They're from a Flashpoint universe, right? So it's not really them. But I can understand why they don't want to do this, and maybe how this could horrify mainstream audiences, young women, young men who like Gal's Wonder Woman as she is, and inspiration, and the same with Jason Momoa's Aquaman. So I can totally understand why the studio's concerned about this and may not want to do this. Now, Andres Machete told us from the beginning that it is a type of Flashpoint movie, but not a copy and pasted one. So I'm okay with that. So I don't think it's an exclusive. I don't think that Heroic Hollywood have found exclusive information. They're guessing, but I think, yes, I don't expect to see the Atlantean Amazonian War being referenced in Andres Machete's Flashpoint movie. Well, yesterday, Ray Fisher quote-tweeted a thread where Variety were talking about, the people around actors of colour having a support structure. So Ray Fisher said this while quote-tweeting this article. Despite my asking on multiple occasions, my barber, Wayne Nembhard, was not credited in any capacity for his work on the theatrical version of Justice League. Wayne worked with us for the entire principal photography process, 8 months, and the majority of the reshoots, which is very vital. Wayne took whatever time we asked of him away from his successful business, a unisex barber, a salon called Extreme Cuts in St Albans, UK, to work with us. To my knowledge, he was the only black man to ever grace the hair and makeup trailer. Wow. It broke my heart, as I know it did Wayne's, to watch the credits roll and not see his name appear in any way. When Zack told me about the Snyder Cut being released, I only had one request, that Wayne be given credit for his work. Zack was shocked that Wayne wasn't credited in the theatrical version and assured me that Wayne would absolutely be given credit in Zack Snyder's Justice League. It's not just about a movie. These things go deeper than artistic aesthetic. Accountability over entertainment. Wow, 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 wow. Wow. Says a lot, doesn't it? This should make me spit my tea out, choke, but it doesn't. This doesn't surprise me. Anyone who's involved in the entertainment industry, you know, the spokespeople for this industry, whether it's actors, high-profile actors, producers, directors, act like Nelson Mandela, but they're not the free thinkers that you think that they are. And, you know, Ray made a bold statement there saying he was the only kind of black man there helping him, right? That's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. This is great stuff by Ray Fisher. I think it's important that the public understand what kind of industry this is. So I think it's another important statement by Ray, and it's important for you to understand what kind of industry Hollywood is. I mean, I remember winning the Iron Apple reality show, Iron Apple Raw, a very small mobile reality show here in Cyprus, and thinking I'll do a year in LA. So I did a year in LA, and nothing will give you that weird feeling than seeing a director calling action while she's still got white powder under her nose, right? So this industry is this industry. If any young person asks my advice about being involved in this industry, especially in California, LA, Hollywood, I would do everything in my power to stop them from doing so. It is not a very nice industry. You are treated like a commodity. They are not very nice people, and they're not the nice people that they project themselves to be. So I was very, very, very interested in what Ray had to say there. He's got a lot more to say, but yeah, Zack Snyder is a gem. He's one of the few gentlemen in the industry, and of course he'll make sure that Ray's barber will be involved, hairdresser will be involved in the credits of Zack Snyder's Justice League. Of course, these are just ordinary things that should be happening automatically, and it's a shame we have to underline them for anything to be done about them. Very important to understand what Warner Brothers was when they released Man of Steel, BVS, and Suicide Squad, and even Wonder Woman and Aquaman. Very, very different company. The company now is run by AT&T, which is now in the framework of Warner Media and HBO Max, right? So we know it's a very different company and a very different mentality. But the mentality was very, very different when they decided to do a DC Extended Universe, because they just wanted to beat Disney. That was the only aim. They didn't care about anything else. But accidentally, on purposely, they brought in someone like Zack Snyder, who did care about what he was doing. Someone like Christopher Nolan, who wanted to get the right director to run this franchise and didn't just want... So in terms of Christopher Nolan, David Goyer, Zack Snyder, Chris Terrio, the people who made us these movies cared about these DC characters. But the studio just cared about money and didn't really care that these were, you know, auteurs, that these were people who really cared about the characters they were writing and understood the reference and the importance of characters like Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Harley Quinn, etc. So the mentality was very different. In their obsession to catch up with the MCU, they wanted to become the MCU when they realized that what was going on was being misunderstood by the public, by, you know, the talking heads, the pundits, the critics, because Zack was creating a journey. And when we got to a certain point of that journey, people would have understood what he was trying to do. When people see Zack Snyder's Justice League, they're going to understand the whole journey of Superman. That in fact, this isn't some dark, evil Superman. This is a Superman on a journey in a real world, rather than kind of a fictional world. They place Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman in this real world. In terms of BVS, that's where Wonder Woman is. In the Wonder Woman movie, Wonder Woman's in her own world, a fictional world, less kind of gritty, if you like, because that's what Patty decided to do, and it worked. And Wonder Woman's one of my favourite CBM origin movies of all time. So there was a misunderstanding of what Snyder was doing. So every time Snyder did something, Warner Brothers were on top of him. They were cutting it. They made that big mistake with the Batman vs Superman theatrical cut, and they had to give his vision back, which went into cinemas for 2 days. Then it was released on hard copy and on digital, right? And on streaming services, on VOD. That film went down a lot better than the theatrical version, but the theatrical version already tainted what people thought of BVS. That's the problem. And Warner Brothers' marketing department totally made a mess of Batman vs Superman. The trailers just showed a popcorn-chomping fight between two iconic characters, and not the deep, indie kind of rooted film that we all know and love. And I've told you the analogy and the comparisons of the marketing for Logan and BVS. The marketing for Logan is honest. We are a gritty, real-world, indie-type movie, take us or leave us. BVS just lied. The marketing for BVS just lied. Right, we're this popcorn-chomping, high, res VFX, fight movie. And that's not what BVS is. You have 9 minutes of Batman and Superman fighting. Now, 9 minutes in film terms is actually quite a long time, despite what the haters say. It's a film that makes an all-round statement, a beautiful statement, an amazing statement. But this is just part 2 of many more chapters. As Zack told Grace Randolph, the plan is to take Superman to the heights that we know he can get to. But it's a journey. Like Smallville was a journey. If we got to the first 3 seasons and people said, why doesn't he wear the suit? And people were saying that, by the way. People didn't get it. It was a pre-Superman story. You can't have him in the bloody suit before he becomes Superman. That would be dumb. And we've explained this to people who don't understand before. He's not really Superman in Man of Steel or BVS. He hasn't had any training yet, right? That's an interesting thing when you put him in combat situations, just like with Zod. He can use his power, but he doesn't have any fighting skills. Zod does. And he has tactical skills, Zod. Superman doesn't. And that's obvious. Where you see Zod using the human beings as shields, and he's literally going to kill them. And so if he wants to die, he wants Superman to kill him. That's what he wants. And he forces Superman into a corner. That's the whole point. So the whole thing was going to be chapterized. And in the end, Superman would have become what he's always been. But there was no patience. Snyder's Superman is amazing. But by the time we would have got to the end of all his Justice League chapters, everything would have made sense and people would have said, bloody hell, this is Game of Thrones, this is Lord of the Rings, this is amazing. And if people were just patient. But because a lot of the mainstream and a lot of diehard Watchmen fans don't like the Watchmen movie, they decided to give Zack this crap rep, which is not fair. I like the Watchmen movie. It's important to say I've never read the Watchmen graphic novels, so it's different for me, but I think he did a great job on that movie. So we get to Suicide Squad. Zack brings in David Ayer, not just to direct this. He says, do what you want with this movie. He writes and directs the movie. But again, Warner Brothers jump on this guy, jump on these auteurs, and they cut the shit out of this movie, which ruins the movie. Now, I've said it before. I like the theatrical cut. But just imagine how good David Ayer's cut is of Suicide Squad. And then you throw Jared Leto into the mix. And then it becomes very, very complicated. There's the great man there. A brilliant Joker. But it's not complete. They cut his performance to hell. And it's ridiculous. They didn't like it because it was different. It was different to anything we'd ever seen in live action of the Joker before. It was very different. He's a crime boss. He looks younger. He's not the same Joker from The Dark Knight. He's not even Nicholson's Joker. And Warner Brothers felt uncomfortable. But they'd already marketed the guy, so they cut him to pieces. They couldn't get rid of him. It was ridiculous. And ultimately, people saw paper mache, didn't they? They saw the newspaper cut up and some words missing. How can anyone say we love this if they haven't seen everything? Jared was never given a chance. When he was announced as the Joker, I think everyone who knew anything about acting and artistry and, film knew this was great casting. He's one of the great actors. I've said it a billion times before. Mr. Nobody is one of my favourite films ever. Amazing performance by Jared. He's such a good actor. This was an amazing opportunity. And I hope we get to see the haircut. I'm very confident that we will. And I think that will be announced sooner rather than later, especially with the 100k tweets event that we had the other day. Very, very successful. But what happened to Jared especially was disgusting. But I think probably David Ayer was even treated more harshly than Zack Snyder was. I believe they did the same thing to Ayer as they did to Snyder on Justice League. The difference is they were open about what they were doing with Justice League, new director reshoots. I believe when they saw David Ayer's cut of Suicide Squad, they were horrified. They didn't like what the film was, right? And I believe they secretly took him off the project and got somebody else to reshoot the movie. Now, I'd always be very interested to know who reshot this movie. And now, as I said earlier, because Warner Brothers isn't run by the same people anymore, it's run by a really clever, intelligent, common sense company now, I think it should be revealed because it's no fallback or comeback on who did that. I believe they got rid of Ayer and brought someone in and reshot certain sequences. And that director said, we cut this from the Joker and that from the Joker. Did they reshoot elements of the Joker or just put certain elements of the performance that David Ayer shot of Jared Leto? We'll never know. But I do believe another director was sent in to do what Joss Whedon did with Justice League. I genuinely believe that. We'll probably never know the truth of that. And surely David Ayer knows that, but these are things he can't come out and say. Does it matter anymore? I believe it does matter. I think it matters wholeheartedly because at the end of the day, when you've got this situation where a director has a vision and they don't like it, they don't even test it with audiences. They say, no, we don't like this. We are under pressure. They were under extraordinary pressure after BVS. The mainstream audience's reaction, the mainstream critics and talking heads didn't like the film. And then the critics hated Suicide Squad, but it made just around 800 million. It was a big success. The soundtrack did very well as well. In terms of consumption, Suicide Squad did really well. This was a cut-up movie and a reshot movie, I believe, right? It's not David Ayer's vision, as we now know, but it still made money. And I mean, the marketing was pretty cool, and it looked like an amazing, very different, unique film. I knew very little about the Suicide Squad graphic novels. I knew of them because of Smallville, so I knew about characters like Rick Flag, Amanda Waller, but I didn't know it so well. And of course, we never had Harley Quinn in Smallville, which would have been interesting. But yeah, so I knew a little bit about it, but I didn't really know much about the Suicide Squad concept and what it all meant. But to have Will Smith, to have Jared Leto, to have Margot Robbie, to have Jay Courtney, really good actors in this movie. And everyone was so proud of their work with David Ayer. They seemed really happy with their lot. But again, just like what happened with Justice League and to the Justice League cast and the Justice League director, Zack Snyder, they just tore it up and said, no, we're doing something else. Now, extraordinarily, the interfering with Suicide Squad actually became successful, unlike the Justice League movie. I always find it fascinating that in terms of consumption and the consumer, Suicide Squad had repeat viewings. The repeat viewings that Justice League did, and don't forget, the theatrical cut of Suicide Squad and Justice League have got one thing in common. They both took it away from their creatives and did their own thing with it. One was an absolute mess, right? And the other made money. That's interesting. Even though the critics hated it, right? I don't know if they would have liked Air's vision of it. It'll be very interesting to see what the critics and like the audiences, especially the mainstream one, think of the Air cut. But it's interesting to me that what they did to Justice League and Snyder, they did to Air and Suicide Squad. That's interesting. But Suicide Squad, in terms of consumption, was a success, where Justice League wasn't. Again, very interesting. Of course, Justice League wasn't helped with the whole problem with Cavill's facial hair and, Paramount not allowing that facial hair to be removed. Once that was a situation, they were in a big mess. So you had all these sequences of Cavill going, it was horrible. And, people are still using that as gifts. And I feel sorry for Henry. Henry's got a great sense of humour. He's such a great guy. I'd love to meet him and interview him one day. So much, he's a great Superman and he's a great representative of Superman. But it is very, very interesting how it all went down with Suicide Squad and Justice League similarly. But Justice League was a failure and Suicide Squad was a success. Talking about this multiverse strategy since Zack Snyder's Justice League was announced. And Zack hit on that very subject and ideal in the interview with Grace Randolph. And what excited me the most is kind of confirmation. Basically, Jared Leto is in a very interesting situation now. Ben Affleck is in a very interesting situation. People who were deemed, surplus to requirements within the dceu could still get their opportunity to shine. And I think this is really important for someone like Jared Leto, who loves DC, who loves the Joker. He's going to play Morbius. These are really interesting situations. And the multiverse strategy gives everyone an opportunity to get what they want. And I've mentioned this before, that you can actually get Jared Leto in his own Joker straight-to-streaming TV show. Do I think they'll go there? I think there's a really good chance. I don't know about Ben Affleck doing his own The Batman, HBO Max streaming TV show. But I think what is very important, that there are opportunities and possibilities. Because we don't know what Ben Affleck's thinking. It's all very well saying we want it. In terms of Jared, I'm very confident that Jared would want to do this via a streaming TV show. Streaming is the same as movies now. And let's be honest, movie theatres may never have the footfall and eyes on them as they did before the pandemic. We've got to be honest about this. We've got to be realistic. We've got to look to the future. I'm happy with VOD. I'm happy with first look deals with people like Netflix and Prime Video. I'm happy to watch my first run movies at home. I do not have an issue about it. I've explained to you how these things can make the same money and maybe more than as they do cinematically in the movie theatres. I've explained it to you. Because if all those people are willing to leave their homes to watch a movie, why wouldn't they be willing to press a button? Think about it. So don't compare it with Trolls Worldwide. That's one movie that made 100 million, which was good for that movie. But as I've said, Wonder Woman 84 would get people pressing that button, that VOD button. There's no question about it, that film or any other CBM can make about $1 billion globally just by having it on VOD, right? It's a platform. It's on your TV, right? A lot of people are set up with sound bars, 50, 60-inch TVs. It's there. It's applicable. So there are opportunities here for things we thought we wasn't going to get. Who actually believed we'd ever get Zack Snyder's Justice League, right? On HBO Max. How many times was I here on this video? How many times was Ping Pong Flicks, Chris Wong Svensson saying, I know, it should be on HBO Max. Why don't they do that? Let's start hashtagging. Guess what? Zack Snyder's Justice League is going to be on HBO Max because AT&T are listening. AT&T, in terms of social media platforms, are destroying Disney. They're always on there. They've got a Looney Tunes Twitter account. There's lots of fun to be had with that. I love Looney Tunes, by the way. I grew up on it. I'm always retweeting and getting in the comments on that. AT&T have done something people didn't think they would be proficient in. But of course they would be. because AT&T come from a customer service industry. And that's what they're doing. If enough customers want this, we are going to give it to them. This is the merit now. And the multiverse strategy from Jim Lee and Walter Hamada, and I know I'm going on about this every single video because I think it's important that you understand it. It's less about crossovers than actually saying you can do anything you want. If you want to do this movie and you don't want it to be part of Zack's DCEU or the outer DCEU, it doesn't have to be. It can be its own thing and you can create your own universe. And maybe one day, we will cross them over. We will cross Michael Keaton and Ezra Miller and Grant Gustin together in the Flashpoint movie, and that's fun. But we won't always do that. You can have your own self-contained movies, like in the Batman. One day, Robert Pattinson and Michael Keaton and even Ben Affleck could cross over. The potential is limitless. So there's that element of it. So there's a lot of green in crossovers. We know crossovers are very important in this genre, in the superhero genre. But what's more important now is that it's not just about Zack's vision and other directors coming into Zack's vision. It's about Zack having his own vision and continuing his Man of Steel universe, right? He's doing that thing over on HBO Max. Matt Reeves is doing his thing. Zack explained it to Grace Randolph, I think, perfectly. This is what's going to happen. When we get to DC Fandom, this will be explained very slowly, very cohesively. I'm very impressed with AT&T. You know, the DCEU problem that Warner Brothers had and didn't solve. You know, we started out in 2013 and they still didn't make a decision what to do with the DCEU. After Justice League and the bodged attempt to do a Justice League movie, you had Aquaman, which was a success. You had Shazam, which was a little success, right? Birds of Prey. But it was clear the DCEU formula without Zack Snyder wasn't going to work. But what you do is if you say, hey, Zack, that's your universe, right? There's your shed. Go in that shed. You can do whatever you want. Matt Reeves, create your own Batman universe. Create the Bat family. Don't care. J.J. Abrams, create your own Superman universe, right? It's yours. It's not the same. It's separate, right? Everyone gets their own Earth to play in. That's a great analogy, isn't it? Everyone gets their own Earth to play in. The multiverse strategy is genius. It's important. And everybody gets what they want. And I think that is so vital now. And as I see this develop, and I look at the MCU, and we shouldn't compare to the MCU because it's a little bit childish, but I do. Because I am in competition with MCU fans because they're always bashing me and trolling me about loving DC and the DCEU and Zack Snyder and everything, right? I pretty much love everything about DC, right? To a point. They were beating us. They had the formula. But now we have the formula where it's, right, we want Matt Reeves to create his own Batman universe. Matt, hey, why not? But Matt, this is yours. Do whatever you want with it. We will not interfere. You are a great creative. You are a great artist. There's no reason we should doubt you. Just tell us an outline what you want to do. Right, that's great. We like it. It's really what Netflix do. I'd love to talk to Zack about the differences of working with Netflix, for example, then Warner Brothers, when he was doing Man of Steel and BVS and originally his Justice League, and the mentality between a streaming service and a studio. But of course, Netflix is a studio now. Netflix is the biggest studio that happens to be a streaming service. It makes films that don't have to be released in the cinema. They are the future. They are making the money. But what's brilliant about Netflix, and I remember the rumours when they were going to be bought out by Disney, it was frightening. But I'm glad that Netflix wanted to stay Netflix. And they didn't just want to take the money. Netflix do a very refreshing thing. Of course they want to make profits. At least they want to put something in their pocket. But about 70% of their profits go back into the product. It's amazing. And this is why they're always in debt. But they don't care, right? Because the people who run Netflix love film. And they want to keep on giving you film, right? They've been very successful with representation, with making good films and mixing that up a bit. And I think AT&T are very similar to Netflix. They love film. They want Warner Brothers to be the proud studio again. And I believe under their tutelage, it will be. And I believe every IP will be given the DC treatment. As I've said before, It's interesting that when Time Warner were Time Warner and not Warner Media, they didn't think of this. Jim Lee and Walter Hamada working together, of course, is genius as well. You've got two of the cleverest people in the industry. And this was clever, to say we're not going to reject Zack Snyder. He can have his playhouse. Everyone can have a place in the multiverse. There's never been anything more exciting to do with DC, because finally everyone gets to see what they want to see. And there's nothing more exciting than that. Comment down below, like, share and subscribe, and I'll be back tomorrow with even more DCEU Daily. See you again soon.